Obviously, playing in the NBA comes with a very prestigious set of perks, including being a celebrity, getting to play the game you love at the highest competitive level, and making millions of dollars to do so. But what some players in the NBA have demonstrated is making millions of dollars does not always guarantee the person's financial stability if they spend their money foolishly. So today, we're going to be taking a look at things NBA players foolishly spend a huge amount of money to get. Stick around, because you're not going to want to miss a second of this video. First, Scottie Pippen dropped $4 million on a private plane. Now, at first glance, buying a private jet doesn't seem like a terrible purchase at all. If you can afford a jet and everything that is required in order to make it fly, like fuel, a pilot, a hangar to store it, and a ground crew to operate it when you're trying to use it, the benefits of a private jet massively outweigh the financial penalty. However, the issue with Scottie Pippen's private jet is that the one he purchased for $4 million back in 2002 didn't work. In fact, the plane he purchased needed over $1 million worth of repairs just to get it in the air. This caused Pippen to take legal action against the firm that advised him to buy the plane in the first place. In the end, Pippen won most of his money back after winning his case against the law firm involved in the purchase. But the hassle Pippen had to go through because he clearly did not do his research makes this one of the dumbest uses of $4 million I have ever seen. But it is kicking off our list because trust me, it only goes downhill from here. Next, Antoine Walker spent how much on cars? The story of Antoine Walker is unfortunately not totally uncommon in the world of sports. Walker made well over $100 million over the course of his career, but once he left the sport and stopped getting paychecks, his financial burdens hit him like some of the fancy cars he spent his fortune on. Walker acquired cars at the same pace normal people get a haircut, it seemed like, which meant that Walker was spending well over $1 million at least once a month. One of the vehicles he purchased had a price tag of $500 million. Walker went bankrupt shortly after his time in the NBA and found himself in a crippling amount of debt due to his horrific spending habits, but has since started to get back onto his feet by starting to speak out against bad spending habits and the importance of saving money. If only he started speaking about that back when he played in the NBA, right? I mean, how is $100 million not enough for somebody to live off of? Anyway, despite his mistakes financially, Walker's on the road to financial recovery, and we hope that he finds his way out of his situation soon. And truly, I want to reiterate that if you have the funds to support purchasing a luxury vehicle or two, I say go for it. There are worse things to spend a ludicrous amount of money on, and Draymond Green will tell you that firsthand. Next up, Draymond Green practically keeping businesses afloat with his spending. The other entries on our list were both vehicles that have practical use. The private jet can get you anywhere in the world, and fancy cars can get you from A to B while looking as cool as possible. But this next example is an example of insane spending on things that will literally never have a use for you. And you're going to be stunned when you hear how much Draymond Green spent at the club. After winning the NBA championship, Golden State Warriors player Draymond Green and his teammates went to the club after the game to celebrate, as any pro athlete would do. However, after all the drinks, bottle service, food, VIP booths, and everything else was totaled up, Green ended up having a $21,000 bill. Now that may not seem like a whole lot to somebody who makes millions of dollars, but hear me out. He was only at the club for a grand total of 4 hours, which means he spent that much money in only 4 hours. If you want to do the math, Green spent roughly $5,250 an hour just for a good time. When asked about it, Draymond said, regardless of how much money somebody has, $20,000 is still $20,000. It seems like Draymond was not happy to hear that the party version of himself would be so reckless with his finances, especially when he has publicly stated that his goal is to become a billionaire before he hits 40 years old. Seeing as he's only 31 years old and will most likely be playing in the NBA for at least the next 5 to 6 years, it's not totally unrealistic, but he probably cannot be spending anywhere near $20,000 at the club ever again if he wants to join the exclusive Billionaires Club by age 40. Now Ben Simmons finally pulls the trigger. Ben Simmons is famous for being a great NBA player who practically refuses to shoot the ball, but despite his reluctance to pull the trigger on the court, that does not stop him from pulling the financial trigger on some big-time purchases. Simmons' tastes are a bit weirder than some of the other things on this list, and I'm sure you'll be questioning Simmons' financial literacy after you find out what he's bought with his earnings. Cats. The man bought cats, and expensive, rare ones to boot. Owning a cat is actually a great decision for NBA players, as cats will be fine if you leave them alone in the house with a litter box, food, and water, unlike other pets who need to be looked after. But Simmons took owning a cat one step further when he purchased 2 African Savannah cats for $10,000. Honestly, this isn't the craziest thing I've heard of, but it's still a bit odd. I mean, these types of cats are wild beasts, and I'm not sure how much I would want to be living with 2 of them, and that's exactly how Ben felt after living with these cats for a few months, because shortly after buying them, he sold them because they were too much to handle. Also, Simmons is on record saying that he regrets buying the cats and wishes he spent the money better, and honestly, so do I, Ben. But to be fair to Simmons, he could have spent spent $10,000 on regular house cats and had like 100 cats walking around his house right now, so I guess it could always be weirder. Next, who remembers former 10th overall pick Joe Johnson? Well, for those of you who do, you may note that he spent 17 seasons in the league despite not always living up to his 10th overall draft selection hype. However, he did make a respectable amount of money over his career and decided to spend it in a rather unorthodox way. Johnson bought trucks, big trucks, and when I say big, I know you're imagining like a lifted F-150 or something, but you would have to think much bigger. Johnson's trucks would be lifted and sized out to the absolute maximum, barely being able to fit in lanes on the road. His trucks would have an excessive amount of unnecessary features that made it even bigger and more extravagant, like cameras in the front and back, as well as 3 TVs in the car and a seat that can convert into a full bed. Now, some may say this isn't necessarily a dumb purchase because he could use his truck to go on a cross-country road trip if he wanted, but it is hard to admit that this truck was the best way to do that. I mean, the thing is unbelievably huge and would have cost a fortune to customize when he could have just bought a motorhome for probably cheaper. Not to mention, Johnson covered his truck in gold and chrome covers to make it seem cooler, but that could not have been cheap and was so hilariously unnecessary. But you know what's even more unnecessary? His shoe collection. Johnson loved his trucks, but boy did he love shoes. Johnson had well over 500 pairs of shoes at one point, and they were all kept in a closet that went from the floor to the ceiling and was honestly large enough to be a discount mirror maze in a bad theme park. Think about that, floor to ceiling shelves full of shoes in a closet that could be traversed for a full 10 minutes. That is insane. But because of how often Johnson was traded, it is unclear if he still has the collection, as I'm sure moving 500 pairs of shoes would be such a hassle after a while. I guess he could just fit all the shoes into one of the huge trucks and just live in the truck, seeing how often he moved around. But what do I know, right? And that's all we have for you guys today on the channel. Thank you all so much for watching. Which purchase made you facepalm the hardest? Let us know in the comment section below. Don't forget to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this one. Thanks again, and we'll see you all in the next video.